Good afternoon, everyone. A very good afternoon again to everyone. So I welcome you all to the celebration of International Women's Day at the Embassy of India, Dublin. Today we celebrate the day which reminds us of the achievement and contribution made by the women across the world. As we take a moment to recognize this day, I would like to acknowledge the amazing women in our office and Indian diaspora who inspire us with their hard work, dedication, and leadership. India has a rich history of strong and powerful women who made significant contribution to the society. From Rani Lakshmibai, who fought against the British Raj, to Kalpana Chawla, who was the first Indian astronaut to go to the space. Today, women are breaking barriers and achieving great heights in every field, whether it's science, IT, or arts. Let's celebrate the contribution of women as sisters, mothers, wives in our lives and provide them equal opportunity as equal opposite gender. The UN theme for the celebration of International Women's Day 2023 is Digital Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality. I would request His Excellency, the Ambassador of India, to kindly give his introductory remarks.
Namaskar, very warm welcome to all of you. Today is your day and I wish to listen from you rather than giving a lecture myself. I'll just say that I feel so grateful for your presence and your support, and my office, Anna is here. Let me begin by thanking you. You have been a great source of support to me. And Barbara, your mother. Friends, I have to just say that normally when we talk about gender issues and normally we hear about the gender discourse, then the attempt is made to put India on the back foot, as if it is a Western world which is ahead and we have to be always in the receiving end. This is not a correct situation, because India has been ahead, way ahead of the Western world in terms of giving respect and dignity and sense of equality, dignity to women. If you look at our Vedas, our philosophical texts, Upanishads, then the role that Indian women have been given is really very refreshing. If you compare it with what exists in the Bible, what exists in Quran, in terms of the philosophical mooring that Indian civilization is anchored on, it's really extraordinary. It's only Indian spiritual thought which does not exclusively designate God as a masculine entity. Similarly, if you look at the role of women as in every walk of life, before we got colonized, women played a really very important role. After independence, we had, like in Mrs. Indira Gandhi, if you look at her role, she was only second women prime minister in the world. We have had women presidents, we have had women chief ministers, governors, and also our space research like Mars mission. I was so happy to learn that the core team which worked on the successful historic Mars mission was led by women. And also I'm very happy that our Prime Minister Modi ji, he attaches so much importance to gender equality and gender empowerment that I feel it's like unprecedented in India's modern history. Everyone has done bits, but his effort has been truly transformational. And he is not just looking at women as recipients of government initiatives, but he has been talking about women-led development, women at the center of development planning. And you might remember one of the very first initiatives that he took was on sanitation. From the Red Fort for a male prime minister to talk about those issues shows how deeply he felt about. Similarly, all of his development plans, they are centered around the direct empowerment of women. Whether it is a Jan Dhan account or vocational skills or direct benefit transfer or Skill India, women have been our housing scheme or water connectivity. Women have been the major beneficiaries of his scheme. So India is going through a very profound transformation even in the field of gender empowerment. So this is a great time for us to feel positive, feel proud, because India is going to be the leader even in gender field. And as India's ambassador in Dublin, I feel so happy, so proud to see so many young talented women who are doing really India proud in their own respective areas of work. Particularly, I have noticed so many Indian girls and young daughters taking science and technology, very cutting edge areas of work. So it's a great time to be positive, be confident of yourself. As India's ambassador, whatever assistance I can provide, I'll be always with you. And also, I cannot end without extending our very sincere greetings and good wishes and deep appreciation to the role being played by the women. Some of them are not so very public and may not be very distinguished, but their role even as a homemaker, as a nurturer of Indian civilization is truly exceptional. I have met here so many families where women are leaders in teaching their children, not only their children but also volunteering as community leaders to teach community children their local language, their dance, their music, their traditions, and keeping Indian ethos alive in a foreign land. So every woman here deserves our appreciation, and on behalf of my wife also I extend our very warm greetings to all of you. Thank you so much. All the very best. I look forward to listening to your.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, sir, for such insightful thoughts. Now I welcome our first speaker, Ms. Jivanta Shuttle. Ms. Jivanta is Assistant Professor in Indian Politics and Foreign Policy at the School of Law and Government, Dublin City University. She holds a PhD in Political Science from Heidelberg University in Germany. I request her to please share her thoughts on this occasion.
All right, please. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador, for this invitation, and thank you for being here. I'm not quite sure why I'm on this side and you're on that side, but as this day together. So I was asked just to briefly reflect on my experience, and my experience has been about 13 years of teaching politics, which is a very male-dominated environment in the academic sector. So academia is generally very male-dominated, and I would say I was in a bit of a slumber, and I have to say it's these occasions, and perhaps in the last maybe 5 years more so, that every year one is forced to sort of reflect and perhaps be more engaged. So perhaps I share part of the blame for the situation that we're in. You know, there's so many women, I think, who take that position for granted and perhaps don't realize that they need to be more assertive and more supporting of other female colleagues. Anyway, I just wanted to say that I've worked in Germany, Singapore, and now in Ireland. And it's interesting to see, as the ambassador said, we might think the Western world is ahead of everyone else, but some figures might be interesting for you to hear. In Germany, for instance, a report in 2020
reports. I mean, women actually didn't go much to university until quite recently in Germany in the last 20 years. So the latest statistics are that more than 50% of women now graduate with university degrees. 45% are women who have PhDs. 35% are women who go on to do a second PhD, which is required in the German system, but only 26% actually become professors. So that means more than half of graduates are women, but less than a quarter become professors. So there's a huge discrepancy there. That's Germany for you. Singapore, it was actually quite hard to find any data which tells you something about that country. But generally, if you look at UNESCO data, tertiary education, academic staff is about 37% in 2020. Now, India compares at 43% in comparison to Singapore. Now, those are very big aggregate sums. We don't really know how you disaggregate those. And certainly at the sort of high level, I think faculty is certainly male dominated. Now, coming to Ireland, I have to say, I'm only a recent arrival in the last 3 years, but it seems like Ireland is making huge progress. And I've read that in 2019, not a single university in Ireland was led by a woman, and today it's 6 women across the country, right? So that's interesting in a short period of time. But, you know, that's not enough. More than half, again, these are figures from the Higher Education Authority, more than half of lecturers are women, but only 24% make it to the professorial level. So, you know, something still has to be done. I think the World Economic Forum said it's going to take more than 130 years to get to gender equality, and we're talking about equal pay, we're talking about equal career opportunities. And I also have to say, increasingly, I think we have to also realize that gender itself is contested. So, you know, it's not just about male and female, it's about all sorts of other issues, class, race, economic background, gender itself, you know, it's much more complicated. And I think the policy world is recognizing and incorporating that. Just another point, and then I'll hand over to my colleagues here. Of course, I think education is the key. It unlocks opportunity, it gives us the potential to really take advantage of our situation. And I'm a product of that. I'm privileged to have had a very good education, and I understand that that is the key to so much. And again, the data is impressive. India is doing very well. Reports say that the percentage of female enrollment has increased even during the pandemic at higher education levels. So a lot of the data is very positive. And then we come to this question of access to the digital world and digital technology, which again is probably going to be a game changer for most women across the world. Women who can access education from the safety of their homes, given their cultural context, given the constraints they might face. So access to digital technology can certainly be a game changer. But I would just add an aspect of caution that when we promote access to technology, we also have to promote how to do that in a safe and healthy manner. So all the institutions that give that support, and I experienced that again personally at Dublin City University where I'm working, the amount of support we are given of training ourselves to be aware of the dangers of the digital world is something really alongside that training and equipping you with skills of how to use the digital technology. I'm thinking of the challenges of managing things like social media. I don't know, some of you have come across the use of artificial intelligence today, ChatGPT, which is supposed to be a great tool, but it comes with a lot of ethical, moral issues which we need to be aware about. So bottom line, technology is empowering, but we also have to be sure that when we are equipping people with those skills, we have to also equip them with the measures that they can do this in a safe and protected manner. And I'll end with that for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Jivanta. That was wonderful. Now I welcome Ms. Poonam Rane, who is the Councillor from Fingal County Council and represents Blanchardstown Ward. She also owns a software technology business, an active member of the local community. Ms. Rane has a background in promoting entrepreneurship and a greater focus on STEM education for young people. I request her to please share her views with us.
Thanks. Respected Ambassador, thanks for having me over, and to you all as well for being the audience.
like to take the opportunity to wish you all happy Women's International Women's Day. So glad to be celebrating amongst all of you. Let's reflect back, and I know what the ambassador said, talking about India as a country from where we all came and transitioned into where we are today. Definitely agree that it's a country where we have had the best opportunities, and I don't think today when I talk about gender bias, gender equality, growing up, I don't think we as a country found that difference much. But today, with more and more opportunities for women and in the corporate world, I think it's coming to the fore more, but the awareness is more. And I think we talk about even gender pay equality. So we're fighting for that more because women are becoming more aware. Maybe there were days when women were not aware that this is required for day and age. So that's my thought process. So starting on that, let me. Why is International Women's Day important in digital or technology and innovation? People often say there are barriers and impediments for women and that technology is a male-dominant domain. It's a yes and yes, but at the same time, it's a no and a no. As you all know, I'm an elected representative of Fingal County Council that covers the areas of Dublin 15 and Dublin 11. I was elected in 2019, and I would proudly say that I was nominated to be an election candidate with no background in politics. And today I stand here as one of the elected members. My professional career spans across different sectors in technology, where I've spent the last 20 years, may it be banking, telecommunication, cybersecurity, etc. So that's my core competency. In the last couple of decades, we have all witnessed technology evolving rapidly. And I have also witnessed this firsthand in my professional career. This has allowed me to be a strong advocate and influencer in encouraging more and more women to consider careers in IT. Everyone is now aware how technology has changed people's lives. Research indicates that the gender divide is still quite wide. There are still fewer women in the enablement as well as consumption of technology. We have long been speaking about the gender gaps in AI, cybersecurity, and engineering, as well as STEM leadership. And there is a long way to go. The gap is still there. There is a need to encourage more women to take up STEM subjects, that's science, technology, engineering, and maths, since there are ample opportunities, and this is my personal experience, and I will give you a few examples about it. I would like to be the voice and inspire more women and girls to consider technology as a career option, and that it is a cool thing to be tech savvy. This would be possible only when we start engaging girls at a younger age. That's pretty much where I would say my political career started, to be honest. I unknowingly, the passion that I had for technology, I started going to primary schools to start talking about promoting more and more tech at the junior level rather than senior level, when the kids have already made up their minds as to what subjects they would like to pursue. And that's because in the technology sector, my own organizations, I struggled with hiring people that had the core or the technology skills that are required in the current environment. And that gap led to me, I'm sure all of us in India, we kind of, either you choose medicine or you choose engineering. Promoting computer science wasn't a big deal. For my parents to tell me that I need to take up physics or maths as the subjects in which I graduated and then did a master's in computer science, they didn't have to tell me that. The fact that I didn't want to do medicine, my options were just decided by me and my own friends, some of them who went into computer engineering. It was something that came on. But in this part of the world, it was something that girls did not pick up naturally, and it's still a struggle. I do find it still, okay? I still go to schools, I still talk about that. But it's about some of those things which led to my political career. I know all of you must be thinking, here she is and where she is now. So that's a different. But there are some positives as well. Let's take politics as an example, because that's where I have thrived now. Social media has been a major influence and a strong media for communication for me. In my view, it has offered me a level playing field for both men and women to reach out to communities. Election campaigning traditionally would involve meeting people at public events, rallies, or knocking doors to influence voters. I still did that. I knocked at least 4,000 to 5,000 doors before I got elected. This has been perceived as a strength amongst men. Therefore, it was viewed and considered as a barrier to women. This has changed, and the evolution of social media has helped circumvent this perceived barrier. I have had many discussions with women who believe this to be a barrier, and I have used my personal experience to highlight that this is no longer a real barrier. I think we can safely acknowledge this. Push technology mechanism has been instrumental in pushing information, and it is now easier to communicate with our communities or voters on a regular basis without the expectation of physical presence all the time. Remember, like councillors like me, we also work. This eventually, I believe, will help narrow the digital gender gap. So before I conclude, I hope to share a message with everyone involved in technology and innovation. A message of inclusion, equality, and opportunity for all. I'm always reachable to all of you if you would like to have one-on-one discussions. And finally, I would like to thank the Indian Embassy for having me here and the opportunity. And I hope to attend such events in the future. Thank you.
Now I welcome Ms. Vidya Vivek. Ms. Vidya is a qualified civil engineer with a master's in business administration. She took painting full time after a brief stint in the corporate world. Her artworks are a reflection of the people, cultures, and surroundings. Her recent works are figurative, with particular focus at women, their means, their mannerism, and beauty. She started the Dublin Desi Artists Collective, a platform to showcase works of Indian artists residing in Dublin. I would like to invite her to share her views today.
Hello everyone, I'm Vidya. Thank you for introducing me. Hello Mr. Amraj. Thanks for giving us a platform like this. Before talking about the topic like digital and innovation and technology and everything related to it, I don't want to complicate it or make it sound very technical. It's going to be a very informal speech from my side. Let me ask you a question. When do you think this whole movement of International Women's Day, or the first time it was celebrated, when did it start? Any idea? Or how did it start?
About 110 years ago.
Yes, my lady, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not new. It's not relatively new. It started sometime 100 years back. And would you know there is a Russian connection to this? Any idea? Okay. So, during the Russian Revolution, there was this lady called Alexandra. So, she was the starting point, she motivated people, and she started a movement against the Tsar Nicholas over there. And that was the link that subsequently led to more and more, people fighting against the Tsar and everything. And eventually, we had an elected government and everything. That was what was recognized by the government, the Russian government then. And that time it was, I think, the February 28, and that day was recognized as something of importance for women. Okay, but now we celebrate it on the 8th of March. Why? Because During that time, Russia was observing the Julian calendar, and now we all observe the Gregorian calendar. So according to that, February is March. So this is a brief history. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that this is not something new that we're celebrating Women's Day. It has a long history, and we really have to be thankful to our ancestors, women from 100 years and more, who are fighting for our voices. Right? Okay. So, have you heard of the term suffragette? Yes? Okay, so recently there was news of somebody of Indian origin who was recognized as a suffragette. Can anybody point out the name? Okay, so there is this lady called Sophia Dalip Singh, who is the daughter of the Punjab's Maharaja, Dalip Singh. She was in fact the goddaughter of the Queen, and she was raised in the UK, and she has done a lot for as a suffragette. And recently she was recognized for what she's done. Somebody campaigned for her, and finally she's been recognized. So now for many of women, if you don't know what a suffragette is, somebody who fights for other women to have a voice in the political sphere. Okay, a right to vote. Okay, I myself wasn't aware of this until very recently, so I thought I should share this with you. And here I am. Okay, now talking about this topic, when we say digital, I think we should look at this whole topic in the other way. Instead of talking of innovation first, technology first, and education, I think we should think from the education aspect first. Okay, now imagine you're stranded in an island and you have a board there which says danger. If you can't read, how is it going to help you? Right? So what comes first? Education. Okay. Even after education and all of this, I think there are a lot of prejudices in our society which we need to work on. Okay. Now, in many societies, not just India, to just pinpoint India would be wrong. The cooking part is generally taken care of by the lady of the house, right? Now, see, in India we are all educated. All of us are educated. Many of us have good degrees, and many of them, like we have counterparts, men, women. We are all working in the same company. But when it comes to cooking part, it's usually thought of as the women's job, right? So these kind of mindsets are what we need to work on first, I believe, right? In a country like India, there we have a very big percentage of educated young crowd, right? And people who are like very well established. Say after 80 years, I believe now we have a woman at the helm at CSIR, which is one of the best organization. But at least we are there, right? So we need to appreciate that. And I think we need to look at these problems from a grassroots level. Innovation, we should not just think in terms of technology. Take small examples like what the government is doing. We have banks which have all these microfinance schemes. I was reading a couple of stories. There is this place called Chhatarpur in India, and I believe there are potters there, who make clay pots and everything. So traditionally, this has been the job of the man to make the pots, and the lady of the house would do the secondary jobs, right? But when this bank, whichever bank was there, which came with the idea of microfinance and self-help groups, so they tried to motivate the women that you should also get into this. And we have this machine which is going to help you, which is going to make your job easier, faster. It took some convincing, but finally what happened was the women saw that they could make some money. The men folks saw that they were getting help, right? So the overall load was reduced. They were getting more money, and it was a win-win for everyone. So these small things, innovations, right? So these are the things we should focus on. It doesn't have to be really big every time, right? So what can we as educated women do, say, to help? Okay, even if you can't do anything financial, what you can do is be aware of what is happening. You see something happening where you feel the lady is not getting support her. So somebody wants to do something, give your voice. That's the least we can do, right? So I think this whole concept of Women's Day, everything is not just to recognize the problems, inherent problems which are there, not just in India or any other country. It's always been there, and it's getting better. It's definitely going to get even better. But we need to work on these problems, intangible problems like these, and I think it can make the society a better world, right? So thank you, and happy International Women's Day.
each other, like women supporting other women. Now I welcome Ms. Sachi Parmar, who is architect by her primary degree. She is an advocate of the digital innovation and social impact. Currently, she is delivering creativity and design thinking modules and workshops in the Faculty of Business and Growth Hub at Technical University of Dublin. I would request her please share her views on the celebration of International Women's Day.
I do not know that I'm going to go next. But alright. This is a lovely room. I've never felt so much at home than I have today, apart from Vidya's event, where you do feel very, very much at home. So it's very nice to see so much color, so much beauty in one room. Excellent. So I'm going to start with hitting the nail closer home, alright? And I want you guys to reflect with me. I'm not going to ask the question here. How many of you guys have read about an Indian origin startup in Dublin? Nothing. How many of you guys have seen an Indian product made by an Indian origin person in any of the bespoke stores that we end up buying some interesting stuff from? Clearly. In my experience, I have mentored 5,000 students in TU Dublin, apart from my teaching hours. You know how many female students from India I mentored? 1 out of 5,000 enterprising, innovative ideas. It irks me so much. What is very interesting, and I'm going to use 3 rules to be able to explain that. Very recently, I had a professor of digital innovation, he's a chair. He was sitting across the table with me, and suddenly he says, Sachi, it must be so difficult for you. You are fighting for gender, which is one. You're also looking at color, which is the second one. Just to get your, that seat on the table must be so difficult for you. And now what is very, very, very interesting, and this is something I was discussing with somebody just right today, is that Irish society at large is very similar to our society in terms of how we perceive culturally gender and gender equality. So when we look at colleges and institutes, it has only taken so many years for them to say, all right, now we are forcing gender balance. We have to have gender balance. It is forced upon us. It is very, very interesting. But what I also realized in my teaching and in my being a part of the startup environment here, I'm constantly questioning everybody. Oh, one more fact. In TU Dublin, I'm the second Indian origin faculty. That's it. In the entire 4 campus of TU Dublin. It's very interesting. I mean, you see these things and you're like, all right, color, diversity, what is really happening here? And gender. So when you enter a classroom, you're looking at, all right, did my lecture go well? Did they not like me because of me being a female? Or me being female of color? So it's very interesting because it's very complicated. It can be very, very strange in the head and you keep on questioning yourself. So now what I learned is 3 very important things. And this is something I practice and I tell everybody else. One is that we need to be able to keep an eye on opportunity. And I'm going to be in the context of where we are today, in this land. Keep an eye on opportunity. We have something which, again, my fellow Irish, I'm really sorry to offend you guys, but this is something I do feel. We have something which is a competitive edge. We are born to compete. Us women, we are born to compete. You'll be surprised to see how you behave in the classroom at UCD and how someone else will. We are constantly competing because we've had to. It's in our blood. It's nature versus nurture. It's very interesting. And because we are born to compete, which means that we're always sniffing out on opportunity. How many of you guys have tried to start some kind of a side business or a side gig in Ireland? A lot of us. I see a lot of groups and I'm very, very impressed. There's food, there's so many interesting services, which means we are always competing. You throw us in a different land and we are still going to create something exciting for us. We still draw revenue. We have that. We are competing. The second thing is that we need to, and this is something which we miss, guys, this room should be the testament of that. We need to radically collaborate. We need more people like Vidya who invites other people and says, all right, you come along with me and we do this together. We need that. We don't have that enough. And I'll tell you another thing. Again, no offense to the Irish populi here. I learned this today, that in Ireland, we're a lot like India. So it's about not just what you do, but who you know. And that is very, very interesting. And that is something which we need to understand, because imagine so many of us being here together. We can really recommend, refer, push each other's cause, which we don't do yet. I mean, I think about it, I'm a part of a lot of groups and I see so many people, doing this, doing this, doing this. It needs one coder and digital technology to get all of that on a platform online. Why isn't someone proposing that? Why are we putting ourselves into this silo and saying it's my work, I'm going to be cooking. But think about what will happen if someone like, Vidya does the same thing and says, all right, I'll code a platform, I'll get everyone together. That is radical collaboration. And of course, with radical collaboration, what it means is, and this is a design thinking concept that we use a lot in digital innovation. It means that you have to be empathetic, and it also means that you have to be non-judgmental, which is very difficult for us. And if you're able to do that, that is when you really, really are going to make each one of us unstoppable. We need that. We need each other so bad right now. You'll be amazed to take that one step and say, all right, I really helped somebody today. Of course, the third is self-advocacy. If no one is talking about you, you need to talk about yourself. I managed to, so I'm doing a TED Talk next week, and I'm one of the only Indians in the entire group of TED Talkers. But I advocated myself. I made myself really, really, and this is I want to use the word I in the last one. I forced myself to get a little seat in that room because I was like, I know what I'm doing. I want to talk about it. Self-advocacy. A lot of us here are self-advocates. It is because you're talking about yourself is when others are hearing about you. So don't shy of self-advocacy, because someone is going to pick on what you do and help you, get your wings to that. So that's about it. That is my learning, my experience, and like I said, we need to really, really, really support each other more than anything else, and we can be very fierce in technology as well. So yeah, thank you so much.
Now I invite Ms. Mahalakshmi Luri, who is a medical doctor specialized in pediatric rare diseases. Currently, she is acting as the drug safety lead at the Europe level for rare diseases and working closely with the European Medical Agency and other national regulatory agencies in Europe in matters of drugs, safety and regulatory decisions. I would like her to say a few words today.
Hello everyone, good evening everyone. So thanks for having me here this evening, and so as we celebrate International Women's Week today, and just I'm here to give my perspective and my personal experience being a working woman and working closely with the global population and various, and most of the times very little Indian community I work with. It is until I reach Ireland, so my perspective working in the medical school and working with the communities, like I thought probably the Western world is different to the Indian community. There is a gender equality that is only we are seeing in the Indian community. But after I moved and working with the corporate sectors and working with different Western population, I can say I think it is not the Indian thing. I think it is deeply rooted everywhere globally, like gender inequality. So today, just everybody before my speakers before me touched everything, I would like to just touch base upon the pros and cons of digital literacy and what are the women's empowerment and how we could achieve gender equality using the innovation and technology, and how we could protect women's rights, making them chance in the digital literacy. So as I understand the concept of gender equality, it looks basically at giving the equal rights and opportunities, and also giving the equal access to the resources and opportunities for all the genders, not only for the women. So that's what I would say, and probably. So today the world is more interconnected and digitally equipped more than more than ever before. And even in this age, there is women, you can see the gender gap in so many ways, not only, and for example, it starts with the family, like when you have the women children, girl child and boy child, and obviously, we child, especially the Indian community, we say that you are the girl and you are not supposed to do this kind of things, and probably you need to come back home, and you're not supposed to roam, and this is the way you need to dress, and that's where it starts, and probably that's what we need to start changing and teaching our kids, like rather than trying to tell your girl child and how you need to behave, rather tell your boy child like how you need to behave with a girl when you go out. That's what I would think. That's when it starts. So coming to this technology world, and unfortunately, like anything else, the digital education, particularly leadership roles, are still underrepresented by the women. So gender inequality could be seen in different forms, like obvious gender discrimination, like I said before. It could be lack of access to the resources, education, and economic and financial inequality, even among the male and female members of the same family. So what are the possible ways, and how could we mitigate? And probably it is not the, I wouldn't say it is the political or just blaming your governments, rather than you could start something at your home, at your very home, and just to give your child, women are in the house equal opportunities like the men in the house, or encourage your girl children as you encourage your boy children. And so I can proudly say that I came from a family of girl domination grade, where we are almost 16 grandchildren and only 2 boys, and so we are empowered and we are well educated and we are given equal opportunities. Then I moved to the medical school. I was, I know, out of 100 medical students, it is 68 people are girls in that medical school with 32 other boys. And so that's where, then when I moved to the corporate sector, I was the only woman and leading, and obviously people of more than 10 years over my age, and being a foreigner, brown skinned, and that's when I saw that kind of discrimination at the start, and until you develop the trust. So, again, coming back to this our topic of how we could use this innovation and technology to mitigate or to shorten this gender gap, could be give the education and proper training, and giving the at the start you encourage your girls and the women from the early age towards the STEM education, like science and technology and maths, and those are not, and engineering, and not only, as we said, it is not only the doctors should be. So those kind of things is something, and obviously while there is pros and cons, while you work as a community to empower women in your society, also there is challenges that comes with technology, and as they say, it is we are lately seeing so much of violence, online violence and harassment against women. So how could we mitigate it? I would think, and probably we need to give the digital literacy to all the women, and you need to make them understand what are the pros and cons, and what are the cons and how better you could use, and what is the basic understanding of when you say violence and harassment, what exactly you mean by saying what is online cyberbullying, and how somebody could intimidate you online, and acting as your friend, those kind of the basic things, and make the girls and women understand how they could be victim, and also enforce laws, and make people who are doing this kind of harassment, online violence against women, could be made accountable, and that's something probably I would think at the government part. And so with that, it is not about talking about the gender equality and right, and obviously I would see it as a giving opportunity and to unveil so much of potential that is still hidden in women, because I would strongly believe women are multitasker than men, and you could still keep your calm, and still you could manage your stress quietly, and still you are capable of. So such potential needs to be given enough support, and obviously protecting the women's rights. With that, thank you so much. And
Thank you so much, Dr. Mahalakshmi, for sharing your views. as well as. Now I welcome our next speaker, Ms. Sugandha Parmar. Ms. Sugandha is working at Meta as risk prevention specialist. She is the co-founder of the Think Tank Center for Gender and Politics. She will be speaking on how India has used online open source research to increase awareness of women leaders in India and are working towards changing the narrative on Indian women as victims. Ms. Sugandha.
Thank you everyone and happy International Women's Day. I'm really happy to be here and thank you to the Indian Embassy and the Ambassador for having me here. It's inspiring to hear everyone's journey so far and I wish I could give such an elaborate introduction to myself, but I'm an early career researcher, professional in this space. My journey has been very limited in this space, but I could definitely say it comes with a lot of experiences as a young woman, working in India and then eventually moving out, studying in the UK, coming here and working. When I started working, I think 5 or 7 years ago, I realized that within the space of when we talk about gender equality or women, I think having role models have played a very important role for us, for women who are trying to kind of achieve things in their respective fields. And today we have some of the role models here, which is kind of really fantastic. But we realized that, and I had this discussion with a lot of colleagues and realized that when we talk about women political leaders and gender in politics, at a global scale, we still lag behind and have certain preconceived notions about Indian women leaders. And I think this narrative kind of goes across South Asia as well, but focusing on India as an Indian woman, I've kind of spent some time researching and here are a few things that I'd like to share that has come from the think tank that I've been working on and in my other personal understanding of the field as well. Starting off with just in the portrayal of women leaders in India, we've realized that a lot of victimization challenges and gaps have been discussed, have been spoken about by media, by the research that we produce at a global scale. But there has been very less done in terms of celebrating the work of women leaders, the ways they have navigated these challenges, the ways they've challenged those patriarchal notions that have been there. And we worked towards having a series and documenting over 22 women leaders across in the last 3 years, just through one of our mini-series where we would bring out such experiences, such narratives of leadership of women. In particular, I think how women leaders have used technology to transform things. Although I think it's very easy for us to find because there's so many women leaders, but I think I'd like to share one of the examples where we could clearly see it during COVID, the usage of the digital spaces where women leaders did tremendous work. And starting off with is a Sarpanch, who's a village head in a rural area in Punjab. And also another one, I think I could club their stories. There's so many, so I'll try to make it short. But using WhatsApp groups and social media to communicate directly with young people. They spoke to families as well, talked about and informed and updated them of what the COVID rules were, COVID guidelines were, also asking them about essential supplies and making sure that that information is spread, the constituents are well informed. We have also had other village heads who use technology to ensure that government cash transfers were happening in time. One of them even went to the police to see if they can use drones to ensure that people are staying in their houses. And as I speak, like these stories are something from the rural part of India. I have not even moved to the urban sides where we expect more usage of technology. And by these stories, what I'm trying to, I think, say is as we have reached a point where people, women leaders have actively used technology, but we're still not reached a point where we are able to look at them as leaders and we're able to celebrate them as leaders as much as they deserve at a global platform. Moving from there, I think, is also the education and access of education on this. And at Center for Gender and Politics, our kind of main motivation is to create this research and make it more accessible to everyone to read and learn more about women political leaders in this space. Another, I think, really important bit we shouldn't miss out on is celebrating the role of men allies in this space. We have our ambassador, we have all these men here who are here with us celebrating the International Women's Day, but also we have a political leadership back home who focuses on gender equality and have been trying to push, I think, including my friends, including my co-founder who's a man, who have been pushing this narrative and supported and been allies to us in this space. It takes as much as a post or a tweet to do this nowadays, so that's something, it's heartening to see that. With that, I close, and I think I would again like to thank everyone for being here, for celebrating, and I hope we get to celebrate more women political leaders. We create more role models for the younger generation, and hope to have more men allies to speak about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Uttama. I would now invite Ms. Amy Gill. Ms. Amy is living in Ireland since the early 80s and has recently been retired after having worked as a finance professional in the audiovisual industry for 27 years and earlier in the catering and a restaurant business. She has a long affiliation with Ireland and have hands-on experience in the changing economies of Ireland. Ms. Amy, we are eager to hear from you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ambassador, the panel, invited guests, and this row at the back. We acknowledge the men here celebrating our International Women's Day with us. Thank you for being here. You all know who I am. Some of you, most of you, I think, probably have seen a glimpse of me somewhere in the social calendar of the Indian community in Ireland. I have been in Ireland for over 40 years and have experienced the growth, the change in Ireland socially, economically, and seen a lot of the ethnic minorities changing to a good representation of the population of Dublin and Ireland today. I have chosen to speak on Digiol and gender equality, having experienced some of this in my financial role and have experienced it through my own my family growing up here in Ireland. Why have I chosen this? I have worked all my life in a very male-dominated industry. For most of my life, working life has been in the audiovisual industry, which evolves at a very, very rapid pace. Audiovisual meaning conferencing, all tech, concerts, etc. Mainly for the corporate sector. I'll start off with firstly ask ourselves the question: are women embracing technology to advance themselves on a personal and professional front in order to modernize themselves to drive innovation? Why am I using the word modernize? Are we educating and advancing the ever-changing technologies, or are we shying away due to the fear that new technologies bring risks as opposed to opportunities too? I think, being from an Indian background, I think, and working my way through the European system, I think the risk was more I looked at risk more than the opportunities during my career. But I must say that I had a very good experience in the last 27 years. I only retired last year. I was a finance director for a company, a very, very well-known company called AFCOM. And I was on the board of directors and a shareholder to the company. I achieved all this through my own invention of myself and pushing myself in a very foreign land. I grew up in Africa, I studied in England, I worked all my life in Ireland, and now I'm standing before you to share my experiences. Okay, that question about the risk against opportunities, it's a very debatable topic, but for the time allocated for my speech here, I'll just look at a very, very brief structure here. Firstly, I'll confront and look at the social front. We very easily and readily accept our ability to embrace new learnings. How many of us have a Facebook account, a Twitter account, Instagram links, etc.? I'll say most of us do have those these days, and that is become one of the most used communicative skills for women, especially ethnic women who are slowly coming through into the working world of Ireland. I've seen a lot of small groups opening up and each of them engaging with social media to help each other and be there as a social support to the new people coming here. I have been one of these since 1983, supported a lot of Nepalese people that came here to work for my uncle and for other Indians and help them settle themselves here and have a hands-on experience in that. Now they have settled. Some of the women didn't even speak English at that stage, and now they're all using Twitter and Facebook, and the children are all academics working all over the world, which I feel has been an honor to me. Okay, we thrive and drive ourselves on the ability to communicate on these platforms, yet we shy away from the learning and applications in our professional lives. Is this because we are scared of the risks attached to these decisions? Do we look at the risk factor of going and learning how to use computers or how to use, learn software packages, etc.? I have a good example. My example was within the finance department. My job over 27 years was in the AV industry, heading the finance department of a company. When I first started, there was a lot of manual entry on bookkeeping, reporting, etc. There were delays, etc. because of the way things were done. But over the years, a lot changed in the accounting software business. New packages were delivered. There were new learnings, and I had to push myself through it to learn that. Often, they experienced detrimental blunders in the process of software, which was not able to meet the requirements of the company. This accuracy and the change in the software speeded up a lot of reporting quicker. Data entry was quicker, performance and functionality of the departments improved, cost reductions due to the coherent systems, and it was all integration. We could integrate with other software packages, which in the last 10 years took a while for this integration to happen and to experience how well technology was evolving and changing. Another example I came across the other day, I read about it, it's all on the AI platform, artificial intelligence. India's very well ahead in that. I see you nodding your head there. Yeah, the world's first robot teacher started in Bangalore Indus School, is teaching physics, maths and chemistry with 100% accuracy. So are we going to be replaced? Are women going to be replaced, or are we going to fight for ourselves and evolve with the AI, So the thought process that takes you through now is, do we need to push ourselves? How much do we push ourselves? Somebody mentioned being support systems. There is a challenge goes on, between people. I hear things around community people. Use the community as a support to drive yourself, to learn from others, get together, create, as Poonam said, she's giving lectures, Poonam, which is a great incentive for parents to encourage that in their own children, to see how far they're going to use this, and it's free, use it, advance yourselves, enhance it, Further on gender equality, the future of gender equality is in our own hands, We must embrace change. Don't be scared of change, The world is changing every day. We are changing every day. So stretch out and reach out and change with the times. Collective support and educating ourselves with the opportunities available in the marketplace. Dump the old ways. There's so much out there to get, make use of the educational opportunities that are out there. There's adult education courses, education for all. Use them, There's county council supported courses which are subsidized or free. Use them, Fingal County Council run great courses, in the evenings for 35 euros for a 3-hour lecture on something interesting that you might catch on. It's very good. Get out of the house. Don't get taken over by your daily duties. There are a lot of government grants in support as well. IT-based skills development. Everybody is connected with connectivity in their homes now. Everybody has an internet, Use it. Spend an hour researching, See what's out there. Stretch out. If you know somebody knows somebody, use it. I've met a great panel of speakers here that my head is already ticking away in my retirement. How can I help society? Vidya's shown us this 100 years on the road. We are celebrating International Women, but I think we celebrate Women's Day every day. A woman is a teacher, a woman is a mother, a woman is a wife, a woman is, you could go on. So don't leave your time in these activities. Just see, you come to a land where there are opportunities. Use those opportunities to advance yourself and to help your sisterhoods, Therefore, I must say, thus we must have a staged approach to this. As I say, explore, avail, conquer our skills, develop them, which in other words is self-empowerment. A woman, look inwards, don't always look outwards, Okay, let's see, for employers, organizations, we look at the employees at all time. I'm an employee, what can I get? I can't be there, I can't further myself there, so and so is not nice, blah, blah, blah. Look inwards, push yourself, push the employers. Going back to for employers and organization, a reminder to embrace diversity, equality and inclusion in their organization via gender gap reporting and publicly using this to enhance and promote their brands. So if you are publicizing gender equality in your organization, you are publicly putting it out in the media to say, we welcome gender equality. You are strengthening your brand. You are, giving same opportunities to everybody. So employers should look at gender equality. Well, they won't probably have a choice in a while now, I'll go into that later on. For those that are yet to embrace equality, this gives a chance to understand why a gender gap exists in their organization. Question it. If you're not looking at it now, question why is there this gap in my organization? What is driving this gap? Do you have management that's favoring men over women? What is it? Come to the core of that. And with this, if you start looking inwards within your organizations, you're looking at a data-driven information. The decisions are going to be quicker and better, and to bring the gender gap closer, in your organization. Okay, I'll go into a recent reported stats by Pricewaterhouse Ireland on published salaries data last year. This was an article up in the Business Magazine recently. What they found, the survey found, was that the gender pay gap in Irish businesses increased to 12.6% as opposed to 11.6% in 2019. So why is this happening? Okay, and the EU average was 13%. The survey was over 500 companies, and this was carried out by Eurostat. The findings was that it was very sector and industry related, as a lot of people have mentioned, engineering for ladies, and choose the careers that we are not going into. Encourage your children to pick the careers that are not going to give them that bias going forward. The findings were the widest gaps were in the finance business, banking, insurance, legal and construction. And the lowest was in retail, health and charity, And in retail, health and charity, charity is okay, like in retail you're seeing you're progressing slowly, there are grades and even in the health system, so the gender would be less. And you see, you go into a hospital, you see sometimes more women than men there, so it depends on the industry type you are working in. Okay, the proportion of women to men tends to be lowest in engineering, construction, manufacturing and technology. Which again, some of the speakers touched on technology there and how fast it's evolving, and where are you exactly in that rat race, So get hold of it and educate yourself and move with the times. Okay, salary related were more affected by bonuses and how high you were within an organization. If you're a CEO, your performance related, it all depended on that. Your package, remuneration package would be high, but then, the performance of company, if you're reporting to a holding company, blah, 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 would be bonus related, and the bonuses were sort of throwing out the figures a bit, So, as we said, the women won't be that high in certain industries. On conclusion, going forward, we shall see better corporate compliance and reporting on gender equality in Ireland. Okay, we're quite compliant here in Ireland with the, on the corporate sector with the law and company reporting systems. But this is of recent. There will be more transparency on gender gap as businesses are required to file their 2023 gender gap reports in December 2023. This will be based on a snapshot data from June 2023. So the reporting is coming in whereby it will be accessible to everybody who wants to look at it. Smaller organizations with 150 or more employees will have to report from 2024 onwards. So where does that leave us now? This roadmap looks good for women, especially women, okay? As they will be well informed about gender equality in organizations and the marketplace. This would also allow women to work their remuneration packages and have a voice in an organization. So if somebody is doing the same job, you're aware, even if you look at the organization's ratios, you can fight for your corner. you know. Thank you. I hope this all helps. My takeaway from today would be self-empowerment and relay achievements. Talk about your achievements. Don't just go and do that course. Talk about it. Show them how advanced you are. Yeah. Just to round off there, let's acknowledge all the women in our lives, our grandmothers, our mothers, our aunties, all our friends sitting across here. Happy International Day to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Good. I welcome Ms. Sohini Baid now. Ms. Sohini is founder and CEO of Ampere, a multi-award winning company which helps to give everyone access to a comprehensive digital tool that records, analyzes, and motivates small, consistent, and positive changes for big health impacts. I would request her to please share the thoughts and experience with us.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. There's a positive and negative in being the last person. Already all my esteemed speakers have touched upon most of the stuff I was about to talk about. But first of all, thank you to Indian Embassy and thank you, Honourable Ambassador Abhilash Mishra for inviting me to be here. Before even I start, I have a bit of notes because I want to stick to time. When you started about where India and its role, women's role, I have to say that it drove very close to home for me because I came to this country at the age of 27. Until 27, was completely oblivious to the fact that I'm a woman and I'm a woman of colour. When I ended up in this country, I was working in investment banking, which, as Amy mentioned, finance is one of the most notorious sectors where I suddenly found myself being the only woman in the room. And everywhere I was asked, also you were coming into Ireland, you're a married woman, and you're here all by yourself. I was never asked this question in India when I was living on my own, and my husband was in Calcutta, and my husband was in Mumbai. So that just shows my experience of how we were raised in India and what I felt. Not only in Ireland, that was all across the globe, because I was working in global markets. I was traveling across the globe, and it was my experience everywhere. Anyway, because everybody has touched upon more or less education, equality, the importance of technology and importance of women getting into technology, I was thinking of trying to talk about the theme of International Women's Day for this year, which is Embrace Equity. So before I start saying anything, I would like to talk about these two words, equality and equity. We've talked a lot about equality. We generally are quite conscious of equality. And equality and equity, the two words have the same root, as you know, equus, which means being fair, even, or equal. But there is subtle differences. And in this world of Google and ChatGPT, I'm not going to go and give you the definition of the two, but I would just like to share the way I kind of think about it. It's so equality, if I was to give everybody in this room a pair of shoes, that would be equal, because I'd be fair. However, if I was giving a pair of shoes to each and every one of you that fits each of you, is equity, right? Now imagine all of you are class teachers in a school, right? And you're giving a sweet filled with peanut butter to each and every student in the class. That is again fair, but you did not know that there is one child with a severe nut allergy. So you are actually while being fair, you're actually doing a lot of harm to one particular person. Now, why am I talking about this? Because we have been talking about equal opportunity. But at the same time, we have to realize equal opportunity is not be all and end all. And we are talking about equal opportunities in the field of health, education, in workplace and everywhere. But we do also have to consider the varied range of diversities that are existing in these places. Marginalized communities, racial, gender differences. You've mentioned that it's not only men and women anymore. There's so many different variations. And there are many, many more social justice issues that we need to consider when we are talking about embracing equity. Now, this concept is not very new. Again, you were talking about 100 years of International Women's Day. This concept was actually used even in medieval England justice system, and we still today we use this word called on a case-by-case basis. The phrase on a case-by-case basis. So we do use it unconsciously, but we have to consciously now probably use it more when we are talking about equal opportunities. Now, on a case-by-case basis means you need to understand each and every person, their person, not only person, each and every person, each and every group, each and every demographic, whatever you are talking about, their own needs. And also have to understand what are those needs and what is blocking from each and every one of them to actually fulfill those needs. So all of you have talked about we need to gather these information. So I would today talk about a little bit on the technology. Now, from an investment banker, I became, I don't know how, but probably don't, but that's a long story. Anyway, I've become a digital health entrepreneur, right? So today, any of these information when I'm talking about, I think of it in terms of data. So these are all data. And when I'm talking about technology today, I like to stick to what I know, and probably I know digital technology, and I'll talk about digital technology. So when we're talking about data, these are varied amount and huge amount of data that we need to make our decisions which are fair and equitable, right? In our company Impeel, we provide digital health solutions and for prevention and chronic disease management, but our motto is measure it to manage it. If we don't understand what's the problem, we will not be able to give a solution. We will not be able to take an action. Amy mentioned that we need to understand data-driven gender gap. So we need to collect that data first. And while we are collecting that data, being from the digital sector, I would say technology has a huge role to play. So we will be able to use technology, and technology can enable us to gather those varied amounts of data. It also has the power, now I'm using technology, innovation, all these in a very interchangeable way, so this room is full of technologists. Please don't come after me with a pitchfork. It's just in the interest of time, I'm using these interchangeably and in a very simplified way. But anyway, so technology has the power to gather data, technology has the power to analyze that data in minutes, and we need to use those enablers to actually implement them in the society and implement the solutions that come out of analyzing those data and analyzing those problems. And we need to implement in scale, because as I said, I came from India to Ireland, and the problem I saw wasn't in India as well. The gender inequality is there in India. I was lucky I didn't face it. In Ireland there it is, and I worked across the globe, and everywhere I faced it. So we need to scale these solutions globally so that it reaches the right people at the right time in the right way, right? So, but technology is not always the solution, because behind technology there are human beings. So we definitely need those people. We definitely need, as Poonam said, those little girls to actually go and study STEM subjects. Even people like me, yes, I am a data person, I'm a mathematics graduate, but I wasn't an engineer, and today I'm running a digital health AI company. So you need to have that interest, you need to have that curiosity, and it starts at school. It needs to start at school. So those people behind the technology need to be educated in the STEM subjects, need to have those curiosity. So there are three things which I think, before I end my talk here, three things when we are talking about technology, when we are talking about embracing equity, we need to be careful of, number one, usability of that technology. So we talked about educating digital literacy of people, but also it has to be usable by not only just tech-savvy teenagers, but also by my 90-year-old aunt, right? Then only we will be able to say, yes, we have achieved real equity. The other thing is ethics, and we've all talked about ethics here. The rising risks of cybersecurity, rising risks of bullying and crime against women. So that ethics overlay has to be there. And last but not the least, and I think it's the most important one, is the bias. Because data is data. At the end of the day, the more diverse the data is, the less bias there is. We know that any AI model where you have millions of data, to train that model, obviously that's even better, right? In workplaces, we are talking about diversity and inclusion, because you're bringing in different perspectives, different cultures and different ideas, and that's also very important for any technological innovation. So net, we're talking about equality, which is really good, but we also need to talk about equity. We need to use technology as an enabler, but not be all and end all. I can't believe I'm saying that. But at the end, when we are using technology, we have to keep in mind that it has to be usable, it has to be guided by ethics, and it has to be bias-free. Thank you very much.
With this now, we come to an end to the program. If there is somebody who would like to do some, if somebody has any question, they can ask, or they want to say something.
Yes,
Okay, please.
I don't want to delay things too much, but first let me say how happy I am to be here. And it was most interesting, and I might just add that one of the reasons I'm so happy to be here listening to such an interesting occasion is that during my working life, I'm retired a good few years now, but I ended my working life as 10 years, the last 10 years I was equality officer for Ireland's largest trade union. And every International Women's Day I had to run an event that was going to be interesting. But I think I never quite managed to run one quite so interesting as today. So
thank you. Thank you. Very great.
But if I can tell just one funny story in relation to technology. 40 years ago, when computers were first kind of appearing on people's desks, I ran a campaign in the union because I was in the research department at that stage as an economist doing research on sort of industrial relations matters. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to be able to computerize all this information that we're writing up by hand about wage rates and so on. And I ran a big campaign, and eventually, after quite a lot of hard work, I thought the union leadership were convinced about the necessity to computerize the union. And then I went on maternity leave, and I know it was 40 years ago because my little daughter is now 40. And while I was on maternity leave, computers appeared on all the desks, but of only the secretarial staff. And I was in a more senior grade, didn't get a computer. And moreover, for many years, this worked very well with the secretaries all doing nice things and so on. But eventually I got a computer and was able to computerize some of the data and so on. But at the end of all that process, you know, some of the men began to feel that they should have the computers as well and be able to do the kind of work. And the tide sort of turned, and eventually there was somebody in the leadership who argued very strongly that we didn't need the secretaries anymore because everyone was doing their own letters and correspondence. And this didn't work well at all in an organisation when most of the branch officials, trade union officials were out all the time doing meetings and so on. And they came in and they were trying to figure out how to send a letter to somebody about something. It didn't work well at all. Equality in the sort of grade sense didn't work, and getting rid of a lot of secretarial staff was a terrible mistake for the union because they were the people who used to clean up our stuff and send it out looking well, you know. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention those couple of things. I could mention a lot more about my time as a union official, but I do remember one of the last International Women's Day events I did was launching a very nice publication about 100 years of International Women's Day and the history of it and so on. So that's how I knew it was over 100 years ago. But anyway, I could tell you a lot more stories, but I won't delay you.
Tech-savvy now, they haven't gone away. The secretaries have not gone away, they're all tech-savvy now.
That's good, because they're so
You couldn't do without them. I wouldn't be a counsellor and working if I didn't have one.
Yeah, no.
Now they call personal assistants and
Big
virtual
mistake to
assistants.
big mistake to underrate their work.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
They're more of your support
Yeah.
system.
Could I, excuse me, I've been at many International Women's Days celebrations, and I have to say this has been the most interesting, by far the most interesting. Some have lunches, some have cultural events, but this has been truly experiential. All of you, fine. And really, to bring it to reality is listening to others' experiences and their thoughts. So I have truly enjoyed it, and as a former principal of a school in Dublin, with one daughter and 3 sons, I'm just wondering if, and this is something I'm going to throw out because I have to be at the airport at 6:30, I'm just wondering if the emphasis on STEM subjects, which we have introduced in Ireland, is it bearing fruit? I hope it is. I'd just like you to kind of, maybe you could discuss that among yourselves, because it is so important for girls to have the same access to the STEM subjects, and it is being offered in the schools, but I hope there's a continuing of that at tertiary level. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you everyone and all the panel. It was very interesting and a lot to learn, and I would love to connect with each of you in future. And a little bit about myself. My name is Priyanka Singh, and at the moment I am being trained as data analyst because I have been out of work for a good while. So, and through a very good program which is going on in Ireland, which is Women in Tech through Digital Skillnet. So this program is specifically designed for women to be introduced in sports technology, because sports technology is totally dominated by men. So they want to encourage us to go towards the sports world in technology side. So it's very interesting, and I really am enjoying myself there. And today was also my course going on, but I left it for this day to come here. And they were very excited that you are going to talk about us. And I said, yeah, I'm going to talk and advocate that this is the best program I have ever been on. So it's very exciting, and they are all waiting to post the pictures on the LinkedIn. So I have to take those pictures as well. And at the other end, like everyone else, I am also part of All World Gayatri Parivar Ireland, which is a small organization at the moment, but rolling off very quickly, and I'm looking for lots of exciting things to happen, working with children, working with local communities and stuff. So I will need all your, like you said, self-advocacy, which I'm doing at the moment, because I need to. So thank you for giving me this opportunity and being a part of this excellent program. Thank you.
I thank all the amazing women here who have shared who have joined us for sharing their thoughts, knowledge, and experience with us. Today we have learned a lot, and learned one thing, that for 100 years we have come so far, but there's a lot to be done in this area, and I'm sure that we will be supporting each other, taking little steps, and there will be more progress and more women empowerment in the society and in the world. So thank you so much.